Hi guys, Dr. Gillard. Wanted to give you a quick presentation on this normal radiographic imaging of the skull. You will be tested on this tomorrow. However, this will only be applicable to the 4 extra credit questions. And I apologize for the late lecture here, but things have been crazy. I'm actually giving 8 midterms this week, if you can believe that. So it's just been crazy. But anyway, you do have the PowerPoint, or you have a PDF of the PowerPoints I've found today. So you've been looking at that, and it's pretty straightforward. So let's quit talking here and let me go through this, and here we go. Okay, so this obviously is an A to P skull, right? Anterior to posterior. That's good enough for our knowledge, and we can see some structures here. So we can see this. Let's start with this easy one right here. That's easy to see. So what's that? Sagittal suture. Okay. Now here you have to be careful. See these sutures here? Now remember, in an X-ray, this is not like a CT or an MRI where there's slices through the skull. This is if we were to press the skull flat. If this person got run over by a steamroller and just smashed everything into one image. So therefore, everything is superimposed on everything else. So this right here, this is actually the lambdoidal sutures. See them running here of the occiput, and this is actually the occiput back here. Okay, so let's see what else we can see here. Now look real close. You see the squiggly line running up here? So what is that? That's the coronal. These are the coronal sutures. Coronal sutures. Okay. Let's look at some other things here. You can see these little kind of cloudy looking lucencies. When I say lucency, what does that mean? Darkness, opacity. This is more radio opaque. This is more radiolucent. Lucence means this is really radiolucent. Lucency means dark. So you can see these right here. These are the frontal sinuses, right? You can see the little eye holes here, the orbits of the eye. So I could put a marker. This is on your list. See how the white. Why is this white here, by the way? Did somebody go in here and draw this with a pencil? No. When bone is thick, it has a cortex, and the cortex increases the radio density. So the denser the bone, the thicker and the whiter it is. So, and we know this. This is the what? Supraorbital margin. I think that's the only one on your list. There's a medial margin, an infraorbital margin, a lateral margin make up the orbit of the eye. But I think the only one on your list is the supraorbital margin. Okay, so we can see that. We can also see important contact point, chiropractic contact point. What do you think these are? These are the mastoid processes. More specifically, you can see the little holes in there. Those are the air sinuses, or the, I guess you call them air cells of the mastoid. All right, now you can see kind of the outline of the nasal cavity here. Yeah. Okay, and then right here is on your list. That's the anterior nasal spine. See, it's quite radio. Uh, it, it it's radio hyperintense. That's another word. Hypointense is another way to say dark. Hyperintense is another way to say white. So anterior nasal spine. Now we're inside the nose. I think we're going to blow this up and look at this a little more, but let's just take a look from here. So these structures, inferior nasal concha, inferior nasal concha, and you can see from the anterior nasal spine running upward, you can see a nice little perpendicular thing. So we can just call that the nasal septum. It's more cartilaginous. Remember, it's part cartilaginous and part bony. We'll call it the nasal septum. Here on this side, there's another inferior nasal concha. And this little hole right here, or this little density, that's the middle meatus. Is that right? No, that's the middle nasal concha. Middle nasal concha. Now we have a lot of, kind of looks like these. Look at, see how airy these are looking? Kind of like a bee's honeycomb. We see the same thing right here. So what's that? This whole area, this is the maxillary sinus. The maxillary sinus. All right, here's the base of the occiput coming around here, by the way, but let's not worry about that one. Of course, I say that now and I'll probably pin it tomorrow. Okay, I think that's good for this one. Let's see if I forgot something. I'm sure I probably did. Oh yeah, right here. This is sneaky though. See this line right here? So optical canals around this area. This is the lesser wing of the sphenoid. See this little white line, this lucency? Right here. Here's a little fades out a little, get hallucinated in there, but lesser wing of the sphenoid. Okay, let's blow it up a little. And okay, we went over all this, but again, lambdoid sutures. What's this one? Sagittal suture. This one. What is it? Coronal suture. Good. And this. Frontal sinus. How about this lucency, this lucent line? Is that right? Lucent? No. Lucent means this color. So this is an opacity. What is this opaque line? Supraorbital margin. Can't really see the supraorbital notch or foramen, in case you were wondering. And all right, let's put some numbers here, see if I miss. Oh, okay, we missed this one. What's number 5? This strut running up. It's got to be the Crista Galli. And we did that. We did 6, supraorbital margin. We did 7, lesser wing of the sphenoid. We did all those. There's also the cribriform plate in there as well, but I think we can see that better on the lateral. So 5 is the Crista Galli. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, another. Now we can see this. I could tag all this right here. What's this? Well, there's the teeth, gives it away. So this would be the body of the mandible. Now here's these little hard densities right here. What are those? Mental tubercles. Mental tubercles. And so this would be the body. This angle, I could pick a pin right there. That's the angle of the mandible. The angle of the mandible there. So up here, this would be the ramus of the mandible. And what else can we see? We can see those again, nicer. Inferior nasal concha, inferior nasal concha, middle nasal concha. This little opacity here. This one you can't really see. Anterior nasal spine is right there. Okay, I don't think we need to go over this. You can see all that. We already did this, but it's just kind of a blow up of the area. Okay. That's actually called a Caldwell valve. I'm not going to test you, but you will get tested on that in the future. So I probably shouldn't even put this in here. You can look at that for your own amusement. Town views from more of a posterior view. You can see the EOP would be right here. But see, now you were really hallucinated. I used my own images so I have quite a collection. So I showed you things that we can really see because you really have to hallucinate. Superior nuchal line is here. I mean, I could see it, but you can see the lambdoid suture, lambdoidal suture here. I could put a sticker right there. That's the superior sagittal suture. What's that? The median point of the lambdoidal suture and the sagittal suture. There's one of those areas, right? Posterior fontanelle, but that's known as the lambda. Or is it the asterion? No, it's the lambda. Next, make sure you know those things. We're going to hit hard on the skull tomorrow because that's what you spent most of the midterm on. Okay, now here's a sagittal view of the skull. Really nice picture. Let's see, I think I'm going to blow these up. No, I guess I didn't blow them up. Okay, let's take a look then. So what are these? Beautiful image right here. Okay, so these are superimposed. One of these, the one closer to the Bucky, where the film would be, is probably this one right here. Because the farther away you get from the film, the more magnified you get. So this is probably the one closer, but they're both the lambdoidal sutures. What's this thing right here? This shadow. Or not shadow, but this little opacity. That's the ear. Right? That's the helix of the ear. And okay, let's get right to business. This is a nice one to pin right here. Anywhere from here to here. What's that? Palatine process of the maxilla. That little point again is the anterior nasal spine. How about back here? Transverse plate of the palatine bone. Remember, they both make up the hard palate. How these, if you're put on your dentist hat, how these wisdom teeth look in here? Not too good, right? They're a little crooked. They're pushing on these teeth, and this one looks impacted, so these will probably have to come out. Let's see. Okay, here's another thing. Opacity in this region. Mental tubercle. We can only see one of them here. Might be superimposed on each other. And we're going to look at this, but you might as well tell me right now what this is. Pituitary sits in there. Sella turcica. And this little point right there. Anterior clinoid process. Posterior clinoid process is right there. This swoosh here, greater wing of the sphenoid, is always above this swoosh. Right here's the crista galli. And this kind of horizontal running opacity, that's the cribriform plate. Cribriform plate. Right. And I think we covered every single one of those. We don't have to talk about the mandible. We already did that. That's so you can test yourself on it. Here's a blow up again, but the pituitary sits right in here. So hypophyseal fossa is the bottom. The dorsum sellae is right here. Tuberculum sellae would be right up here. Don't need to know either of those two for the test, though. You do need to know this. What's that again? Anterior clinoid process. Posterior clinoid process is here. You can see all this stuff. There's the cribriform plate. There's the crista galli coming up. And that's the greater wing of the sphenoid. Wonderful. Let's see. I think we talked about that. I think that's probably good. I mean, this is a really nice one. We can see that mental tubercle right here. Now I could put a sticker here. What's that? That's the alveolar process. Remember, the alveolar process gives rise to the teeth. Alveolar process of the mandible. Up here's the alveolar process of the maxilla. And this is the whole thing is the hard palate, but don't call it that. If I put the sticker here, you can actually see, if you hallucinate a little, you can see a little line right through here. That's a suture line. So forward to that little line, all of this, palatine process of the maxilla, all of this transverse or horizontal plate of the palatine bone. All right, I think we're winding down. I think that's probably enough. So that's the maxillary sinus, intranasal spine. We did all the rest of these. Okay, good luck. Study hard. Remember the test at 11 o'clock tomorrow. This is summer 2015 for if any of you other people. Maybe I'll be using the same one for next quarter. But yeah, good luck. See you tomorrow.